On the day when the emperor assigned the eldest prince to my name, Ning from Launching Courtyard leapt into the lake. The eldest prince remained unperturbed, continuing to call me mother consort. It was only upon receiving the news of Ning's demise that he was struck with fear, his eyes reddening. From that moment onward, he demonstrated utmost reverence and filial piety, treating me as his biological mother. However, all of this changed once he ascended to the throne. If it were not for you persuading Father Emperor to send me away, my mother consort would not have sought to end her own life. He condemned me to keep vigil for Ning, using my blood to transcribe Buddhist scriptures in a futile attempt to atone for my sins. Upon learning of this, my maternal clan led a group of ministers to voice their concerns. He executed my entire family with a single treasonous missive. In the dimly lit dungeon, I endured daily scoldings and beatings from the eunuchs he sent, yearning for death yet unable to attain it. When I opened my eyes once more, I returned the eldest prince, who had fervently called me mother consort, back to Launching Courtyard. He was thrown into a state of panic. 1. The child shall henceforth diligently remember the teachings of his beloved mother, prioritizing her wishes above all else, and will never betray her profound affection. As I remained momentarily unresponsive, Huizhu softly urged me at my ear, suddenly snapping back to reality. I was only certain of my rebirth upon witnessing the 9-year-old Fu Yuan kneeling before me, presenting a scroll of paintings with both hands. I took a deep breath. My tone steady and unruffled. Rise. Huizhu accepted the artwork and unfurled it before me. Your Highness, this portrait of the Crown Prince is truly exquisite, rendering you akin to a celestial being.
Look.
She had barely finished her sentence when a small palace maid rushed in, flustered. Oh no, oh no. Ningda Ing from Launching Courtyard has jumped into the lake. Before I could utter a word, Fu Yuan's youthful voice rang out. What a preposterous act. A concubine's suicide is a grave crime. If she wishes to die, let her do so. Such trivial matters should not trouble my mother. In my previous life, Fu Yuan was indeed indignant upon discovering that his biological mother sought death. I intended to command someone to rescue her, but he insisted that Ningda Ying's desperate act was merely a ploy to win him back, displaying the demeanor of a rustic village woman, urging me to disregard her. I believed his words, merely sending a few maids to admonish her. Little did I expect that Ningda Ying would truly take her own life, meeting her end. Fu Yuan, frightened, clutched my arm tightly, unwilling to let go. Though I despised Ningshan, I could not help but feel that the child was innocent. In light of his loss of his biological mother and his lowly circumstances, I finally acquiesced to recognize him as my legitimate son. From that moment forth, I had no other offspring and devoted myself to his meticulous upbringing. Fu Yuan came to regard me as his true mother, offering daily greetings and inquiries into my well-being. This image of maternal affection and filial piety transformed after he ascended the throne. He accused me of being the murderer of his birth mother. To absolve myself of this alleged sin, he condemned me to keep vigil over Ningda Ying's spirit, compelling me to inscribe 100 Buddhist scriptures in blood. My maternal clan, in collusion with court ministers, advised him, and with a single letter accusing me of treason, he executed my entire family. I found myself imprisoned in the dungeons, subjected daily to scorn and lashes from eunuchs he sent, yearning for death, yet unable to obtain it. Yet, it was he who obstructed my attempts to save Ningda Ying. With this realization, I pronounced an edict with a fierce tone, notified Chao Yongui of the Internal Affairs Bureau, and summoned the imperial physicians. They must revive her. Huizhu stepped forward to acknowledge my command, while Fu Yuan, still young, could not conceal his astonishment. He widened his eyes, incredulous, and questioned me. Mother, did you not despise that shameless woman? Why then would you save her? Indeed, my loathing for Ningshan was well known throughout the palace. She had been my maidservant, yet took advantage of my pregnancy to climb into bed with the emperor while he was intoxicated. She even sought an audience with the Empress Dowager to plead for her child, causing me to miscarry and suffer lasting ailments that prevented further pregnancies.
Now,
her support was to become my legitimate son. She had lost completely, so why should I save her? I offered no explanation, issuing a stern decree, send the crown prince back to Launching Courtyard. In this new life, I would no longer claim this ungrateful son. I intended to ensure he remained forever united with his mother, the palace maid who had ascended to prominence. 2. Upon hearing this, Fu Yuan fell to his knees with a thud. Mother, wait. Father's decree commands that you raise your son. There is no need to consider Ning Daing as my biological mother. If she wishes to die, let her be. Mother, I truly do not wish to return. Please do not abandon me. He crawled to my feet, his small face streaked with tears, evoking profound pity. Yet, with memories of his relentless torment in my previous life, a chill enveloped my heart. Huizhu entered from the outer hall, whispering in my ear. I wiped the tears from Fu Yuan's face, softening my tone. Your mother is willing to forsake her life for you. In her heart, you are more important than anything else. Even if she has erred, you must never utter words that would drive her to death. Upon hearing this, Fu Yuan was momentarily stunned. At that time, Ning Shan had caused my miscarriage. Although the Empress Dowager permitted her to bear a child, she consistently suppressed her status. Without the support of her son, she directed all her frustrations towards Fu Yuan, resorting to beatings and scoldings. However, these long-buried memories had faded with time, leaving only the irretrievable love of a mother within Fu Yuan's heart. He did not recall, so I would ensure he remembered. Do you know that had I delayed in sending someone, your mother would have already breathed her last? You would truly become a child without a mother. Now that she has been rescued and lies unconscious, why do you not hurry back to see her? Fu Yuan gathered his wits and bowed 3 times heavily before me. Before long, the entire harem was aware of the situation, and even those concubines who usually bore me ill will praised me, saying that the Empress was clear on matters of gratitude and grievance, benevolent and compassionate. To placate me, the Emperor specifically visited Fingyi Palace. He reclined casually on the couch, asking me nonchalantly, Wan, do you not desire a child of our own, instead of Fu Yuan? I continued my tasks without pause, my heart already discerning his subtle inquiry. My father held the esteemed title of Grand Minister, and my mother was the daughter of a loyal general. My status as a noblewoman was both a boon and a barrier between us. Ning Shan's ascendancy to the emperor's bed and her successful delivery of a prince, coupled with my miscarriage, all bore his fingerprints. Having lost a child myself, I understood the harrowing pain and could never bear to see them torn apart. I offered him a cup of tea. Your Majesty, rest assured, regardless of which palace sister gives birth, I shall treat the child as if it were my own. He smiled quietly at me, and after a moment, accepted the teacup. That evening, the emperor chose to stay overnight in Fingyi Palace. The following morning, Huizhu served me a bowl of medicinal broth. Your Highness, this was instructed by His Majesty, who insisted that you must drink it under supervision. She bit her lip, her face filled with resentment. I gazed at the bowl in her hands, a cold smile creeping into my heart. What medicinal broth! This was a concoction laced with musk, leeches, and yellow bark, a potion for infertility. He was attempting to strike a bargain with me. If I abandoned my intention to raise Fu Yuan, I would have to accept this potion that would ensure I bore no more children. Yet in my previous life, I had agreed to raise Fu Yuan, and he had employed the same tactic then. To ease his suspicions, I had willingly consumed it, but now I had changed my mind. Just tell him that my old ailment has flared up again. In order to avoid vomiting, I shall simply not drink it.
Bijou convait de má intention.
The emperor, however, showed no reaction. He merely elevated Ningxuan to the rank of concubine, allowing her to personally raise the prince, while he spent several consecutive nights in Lanqing Palace, showering her with an abundance of gifts. I calculated the time, and once Ning concubine, emboldened by her favor, seized the luxurious silk reserved for higher-ranking concubines, and Fu Yuan caused the snowball nurtured by Shufei to perish, I knew the moment had arrived. 3. The wretched maidservants of Lanqing Courtyard. Relying on the emperor's favoritism, they dare not even bow to me. The woman, plain in appearance and exuding a sense of lowly origin, truly puzzled me as to what the emperor found appealing in her. Furthermore, the crown prince frequently suffered from dizziness and nightmares, and with the emperor absent from my palace for an entire month, he was summoned away before even settling down. On a crisp autumn day, I gathered with several concubines in the imperial garden, their tongues wagging with discontent regarding Ning concubine. Just as I was leaning my head in interest, a clear voice interjected. Sour grapes from those who cannot attain the grapes. Ultimately, it is simply that you lack the ability to win the emperor's heart. A hush fell over the air as I straightened, directing my gaze towards the corner where the speaker, Xian Chongzai, stood. She had only recently entered the palace. sent by a wealthy merchant from Jiangnan as a performer. None of the concubines present engaged her, responding only with disdainful scoffs. Unfazed, Changzai wore an expression of absolute confidence. The gathering dispersed without merriment, and instead of taking a sedan chair, I chose to walk back to Fingyi Palace. Along the way, Huizhu inquired, "Your Highness, do you not plan to take any action? What action should I take? The person sent by my brother must possess some capabilities. We shall simply observe the unfolding events." No sooner had I spoken than I spotted Fu Yuan wielding a whip, directing it at the passing palace maids and eunuchs. I grasped Huizhu's hand and approached him, only for the whip to strike the stone bricks at my feet, causing him to look up at me. Huizhu stepped forward to remind the first prince, "Your Highness, you must pay your respects to Her Majesty, the Queen." He pressed his lips together, slightly bending his knee before standing upright immediately. Huizhu wished to say more, but Fu Yuan suddenly shouted, "If you do not care for me, you'll surely regret it in the future. Mother said that you are like a hen that does not lay eggs, destined to bear no children in this lifetime, and father will surely cast you aside." With that, he turned on his heel and fled. "Your Majesty, the first prince is utterly outrageous." I scoffed inwardly, realizing that Ningpin had grown far too comfortable, lacking the scrutiny over the first prince. It was time for her to face a downfall. I decided to inform Xian Changzai, and today would be the day. That evening, as Xian Changzai played the qin under the moonlight in the imperial garden, the emperor, who was en route to the launching courtyard, turned his carriage around. When this news reached me, the imperial physician was in the midst of taking my pulse. "Your Majesty, you are overburdened with worry. You must take care to rest," he advised. I withdrew my outstretched wrist and adjusted my sleeve. The affairs of the palace are intricate, and I have grown accustomed to them over the years. Watching the physician tidy up his pulse pillow, I shifted the conversation. "As for the first prince, he has recently been suffering from headaches and fevers. Perhaps you should pay him a visit." "Your Majesty is too kind. I shall attend to it at once," the physician replied. After the physician departed, I settled down to review the accounts, when Huizhu hurried in. "Your Majesty, you truly are astute." A little servant from Ningpin's palace attempted to call the emperor away under the pretext of the first prince catching a cold, but encountered the physician before reaching the splendid palace of Xian Changzai. What was Ningpin's reaction? I inquired. Ningpin. Upon hearing that the first prince was unharmed, she seemed to breathe a sigh of relief and stayed close by to tend to him. I chuckled softly. It was indeed surprising to see her so attentive. If only she could show such concern for Fu Yuan, he would not be causing a ruckus in my presence. Ensure she is closely watched. Xian Changzai's foundation is unstable, and we cannot allow her to disrupt our plans. I feigned concern for the first prince's frailty, instructing Ningpin to pray for him in seclusion. The emperor's affection for Ningpin was merely a facade. Now that Xian Changzai was constantly by his side, he had already cast her aside. When I broached this topic, the emperor assumed I was merely managing the concubines vying for favor and did not delve deeper. Half a month later, one night, Fu Yuan suddenly developed a high fever. Ningpin broke free from the supervising eunuch, kneeling outside the splendid palace with the child in her arms. "Your Majesty, Anur has a raging fever. You must save him." The emperor, awakened by the commotion, was not pleased, but upon seeing Fu Yuan in a state of unconsciousness, his heart tightened. While chaos ensued, I arrived slowly with the physician. The physician placed his hand on Fu Yuan's arm, and after a moment, he exclaimed, "The first prince's condition is critical. Quickly, prepare medicine." After a bowl of medicinal soup was administered, Fu Yuan's condition finally stabilized. I slammed my hand on the table. The first prince was burning with fever. "Why did you delay in summoning the physician, waiting until the situation escalated to the emperor's attention?" The emperor cast a glance, and Ningpin trembled in fear. I tried to reduce the first prince's fever, but alas, it proved ineffective. Anur longs for the emperor. Had it not been for the queen's confinement, he would not have been overwhelmed with worry and caught a cold. What nonsense was this? I had only prohibited you from leaving the palace, not from summoning the physician. Xian Changzai draped a cloak over the emperor's shoulders, scrutinizing Ningpin from head to toe. "Winter is approaching. How well you are dressed, sister." Yet the first prince arrived wearing only his nightclothes. "He is burning with fever. How could he wear so many layers?" My gaze sharpened. Could it be that you intentionally allowed the first prince to catch a cold in hopes of gaining favor? That is my child. How could I harm him? Ningpin's voice rose sharply, and the chamber fell silent for a moment. Fu Yuan on the bed weakly uttered, "Mother, I do not want to bathe. The water is too cold, I beg you." Ningpin panicked, "Your Majesty, it is not as it seems. Please, listen to me." The emperor's face flushed with anger. "Enough. Ningpin, you are to be punished with a year's salary reduction and confined for 3 months. The farce concluded, and the crowd dispersed. I sat quietly by the bedside, observing Fu Yuan's fluttering eyelashes, and coldly remarked, "Stop pretending." He froze, immediately opening his eyes to glare at me, his gaze filled with malice. "Why do you not care for me? Mother, what must I do for you to save me from this?" I could not help but smirk. How amusing. Was this not the mother he recalled? Why, in this second life, did he wish to escape? I tucked him in with the blanket. "What are you saying? Perhaps the fever has muddled your thoughts." His gaze turned icy. "You deceive me. You said I meant everything to her, yet she has only ever cared for father. For silks and jewels. I cannot summon father. She calls me worthless. You know everything. Why do you not help me? Why not take me away from her?" Fu Yuan questioned me hoarsely, and I blinked innocently. "If your own mother treats you this way, how could you expect that I, a stranger without blood ties, would not abandon you? After all, the emperor has no legitimate heir. You cannot bear children, and I am your only escape." He raised his flushed face into a knowing smile. "So it is." My expression gradually grew cold. "The first prince must recover here. Ningpin is still waiting for your return." Upon returning to Fingyi Palace, I summoned Huizhu to thoroughly investigate the palace. Indeed, I found a minuscule amount of safflower within the rouge in Hongzhuang Tower. "Your Majesty, what is the meaning of this? How could the First Lady have poisoned you?" "It certainly could not have been my sister-in-law," I retorted. "The only one capable of meddling in the harem is that individual above." No wonder Fu Yuan did not react when I did not nurture him. It seems he still retained a backup plan. I kept this matter discreet and summoned Physician Xiao under the cover of night. "Your Majesty, do not worry. The time has not yet passed, and no significant impact has occurred. Following my prescription for proper nourishment, you will soon conceive a dragon heir." I nodded and began to take the medicinal concoctions daily to regulate my constitution. Time flew by, and before long, winter had set in. One day, while reconciling accounts with the Internal Affairs Office, a steward from the Imperial Kitchen reported that a young eunuch had been caught trying to steal by crawling through a dog hole. Huizhu brought the child before me, and I barely recognized him. The once frail, malnourished boy, who seemed as if a gust of wind could topple him, was indeed Fu Yuan. Ningpin had been so heartless that she did not even allow him to eat. Watching him devour the food ravenously, I could not help but frown slightly. "Eat slowly. It is all yours." He swallowed slowly, confusion filling his eyes. "Why are you so kind to me? Is providing you with food kindness? You are the first prince, the sole child in this harem. You deserve a better life than an ordinary child." I reached out to wipe his mouth, but he recoiled, instantly becoming vigilant. He had been beaten into submission. "You do not understand why I do not save you yet treat you well?" I chuckled softly. "Because this is your fate. Being born into royalty, having such a mother is your destiny." Fu Yuan paused, then lowered his gaze. After a long silence, he clenched his teeth and muttered, "I do not wish to accept my fate." I struggled to suppress my smile. "If you do not wish to accept your fate, then think for yourself about how to change it. In the future, the Imperial Kitchen will prepare your meals daily. You need not steal anymore. Just wait, and someone will bring it to you." After Fu Yuan left, Huizhu absent-mindedly massaged my legs. I set down my book and spoke. "If you have questions, ask directly." After some hesitation, she inquired, "The first prince is still so young. Will he truly act against Ningpin?" "He will, only he has not been driven to desperation yet. We must wait." The days rolled on peacefully until the first snowfall arrived, bringing good news from Xian Chongzai. She was already 1 month pregnant. The first prince was no longer the emperor's only child, and I deliberately informed Ningpin, who was still under confinement. She vented her frustrations once more upon Fu Yuan. It was only when her own son was beaten to a pulp that she gathered her disheveled hair and instructed the gatekeeping eunuch, "I wish to see the queen." Within the launching courtyard, Ningpin dismissed everyone. You must not allow Zingwerin to bear a child. Ningpin endeavored to maintain her composure, yet her tightly clenched hands betrayed her. The late emperor had 8 sons and 5 daughters for the women of the harem. Bearing offspring for the sovereign was their solemn duty. With so many women at the emperor's disposal, do you truly believe you can eliminate them all? I find it amusing that while others are forbidden to conceive, only she, a mere bedservant, is deemed fit to do so. Observing Ningpin's furrowed brow in contemplation, I continued, Ningshan, your ambitions as a palace maid are rather excessive. I advise you to abandon this futile desire while you still can. Suddenly, as if struck by a revelation, she lifted her gaze sharply. I may be of lowly status, but what of you? And I countered, I shall bestow Anur upon you, and in return, you shall assist him in ascending the throne. Together, we shall become Empress Dowagers, a mutually beneficial arrangement. How clever I was! What use were the accolades of favor when Anur could ascend? Everyone would heed my commands. Ningshan's eyes gradually grew wild, and inwardly, I cursed her foolishness. Suddenly, a small figure darted past the screen, prompting me to swallow the words I almost uttered and feign a look of disdain. Do not rejoice too soon. The eldest prince is the rightful heir. Ningshan remained unfazed, instead offering me a knowing smile. You, as a lady of high birth, would not comprehend. A child is akin to a newlywed daughter-in-law. As long as I hold sway over him, he shall obey me for life. I nodded in satisfaction. I shall grant you your freedom, but I wish to witness your abilities. Once outside Launching Courtyard, I could no longer contain my laughter. How utterly fascinating. 3 individuals, each with their own nefarious intentions. A son seeking to betray his mother, a mother plotting against her confidant. And the one seated upon the throne continued to scheme against me. Who, in the end, would emerge victorious? My anticipation only grew. As the new year approached, I concocted a pretext to release Ningpin. She, eager as ever, seized the opportunity without delay. The emperor, in a whimsical mood, invited me to admire the snow. Just as she, accompanied by the eldest prince, was constructing a snow statue of Guanyin to make wishes. Today I sculpt Guanyin from snow, praying for the emperor's health and longevity, and that our nation may flourish and attract all nations. Ningpin and Fu Yuan knelt together in the snow, oblivious to the flakes accumulating upon their shoulders. With reports of victories from the northern front, the emperor's spirit soared, and upon witnessing her earnestness, he was further delighted. Your sincerity is evident, beloved concubine. It brings me great comfort. The emperor approached to assist her up, and I feigned a sour expression, making a mockery of their display before allowing them to continue. Ningpin regained her favored status, adopting a gentler demeanor devoid of her previous manipulations, and the emperor appeared to harbor genuine affection for her. Just as I awaited Ningpin's next move, I unexpectedly encountered Fu Yuan. That woman is about to take action. His words halted me abruptly. I had overheard her conversation with a young eunuch. They had procured a drug known as Huanxin San from outside the palace. Huanxin San? The woman claimed that its initial use would present no symptoms, but with prolonged consumption, it would disturb the mind, induce frequent hallucinations, and ultimately lead to madness and organ failure. I gasped sharply. Ningshan possessed audacity beyond measure to conspire against the emperor. Why have you come to inform me? He hesitated briefly before responding earnestly. I do not wish to be her pawn, nor do I desire my father's demise. Yet your mother is paving the way for you. Should anything befall the emperor, you would have a rightful claim to the throne. Do you truly not wish to occupy that position? He met my gaze directly, remaining silent. He was not yet cornered. If he revealed the truth to the emperor, Ningshan would not survive the night. I waved him away. Return, then. If you do not see me tonight, the emperor will remain unharmed. A splendid opportunity to employ another's hand. What a pity that he could not perish just yet. I located the young eunuch Ningpin had bribed. He understood he had nearly committed an unforgivable crime, and after considerable effort, my people managed to persuade him to exchange Huanxin San for Jiyu San. The young eunuch believed this to be a fortifying medicine for men, unaware that long-term use would render them sterile. Indeed, the emperor began to frequent the harem more and more, sometimes even inviting concubines to serve him during the day. On the 20th day of the 12th month, Dr. Shao came to check on my health. Your Highness is recovering well. Should you receive the emperor's favor around the time of your menses, the likelihood of conceiving a prince is significantly heightened. I expressed my gratitude to Dr. Xiao. As I calculated the timing, the various princes had already set out for the capital, and it was time for me to pay a visit to the Empress Dowager. The Shikundyan was elegantly simple. The Empress Dowager was engaged in a quiet recitation of Buddhist scriptures, her eyes gently opening upon my arrival. "Wanner, you have finally come." I sighed. The human heart is inscrutable, and I have come to understand. The emperor is not the Empress Dowager's biological son. During the late emperor's reign, when Prince Yi rebelled, a spy infiltrated the harem, intending to poison the empress, igniting fierce conflicts among the noble families. Noble concubine Rong unwittingly consumed the poisoned wine, becoming the scapegoat for the Empress Dowager. They shared a sisterly bond, and until her dying breath, she bore no resentment, entrusting her own flesh and blood to the Empress Dowager's care. The Empress Dowager had always cherished noble concubine Rong's kindness, not only assisting the current emperor to ascend to the throne but also introducing me, who had been betrothed to Prince Jing since childhood, to the emperor. Yet the emperor was ungrateful, believing the Empress Dowager responsible for noble concubine Rong's death. Even after ascending the throne smoothly, he remained distant from her. The Empress Dowager before me was not unlike the version of myself from a previous life. Prince Jing was returning to the capital. The Empress Dowager's calm demeanor finally rippled with emotion. Ever since the emperor's ascension, he had abandoned everything to guard the northern borders, remaining away for 7 years. Yet to marry, harboring resentment towards me. I have wronged him, and I have wronged all of you. She closed her eyes, tears tracing down her cheeks. I helped her wipe them away. "Aunt Fun, please assist me. I wish to have a child." The Empress Dowager's eyes widened in shock as she stared at me. I placed before her the preparations I had long since made. The emperor was already preparing to take action against Prince Jing. With no retreat left, the Empress Dowager had no choice but to collaborate with me. Finally, after reading the secret letter, her expression darkened, and she set it aside the flickering candle flame. The letter was reduced to ashes, and she solemnly acquiesced. At the palace banquet on New Year's Eve, I encountered that familiar figure once more. The instant our gazes met, the surrounding clamor seemed to fade away. He raised his glass towards me, and I reciprocated the gesture. No one noticed the suppressed emotions between us. As the night deepened, the emperor, intoxicated, was assisted away by the eunuchs. Upon returning to Fingyi Palace, I dismissed those around me and awaited silently. I lost track of time. The aphrodisiac scent within the palace had clouded my senses. Suddenly, I felt the restrained breath of a man behind me. I turned sharply to find Prince Jing standing there for quite some time. In that moment, the youthful Prince Jing merged with the man before me, and without hesitation, I advanced to tear at his garments. When I awoke once more, the sun was already high, and the man beside me had vanished. Huizhu gently called my name. "Your Highness, Xian Chongzai has shown signs of labor." My mind instantly cleared, and I hurried to summon Dr. Xiao to the palace. After considerable effort, I finally stabilized Xian Chongzai's pregnancy. It was evident that this was undoubtedly Ning Pin's doing, yet I lacked evidence. I could only bring Xian Chongzai to Fingyi Palace to await her delivery. During this time, the emperor's health had further deteriorated, and he had begun to consume stimulating medications. He felt increasingly weak, yet his visits to me became more frequent. "It is you, the Empress, who brings me peace. Those women were all consumed with thoughts of conceiving. Yet you alone bring me genuine joy." I concealed my mocking smile behind a handkerchief. He remained oblivious to the fact that the potency of the drugs in my palace was far greater. A combination of Huanxin San and a double dose of Jiyu San. As I observed him lying beside me, his gaze growing increasingly dazed, a wave of nausea washed over me. My child had acquired a name, and my patience had reached its limit. It was time to compel Fu Yuan into action. As the winter snow began to melt and the gentle spring breeze blew, Ning Pin repeatedly urged me to register Fu Yuan under my name. Yet I chose to ignore her entreaties. She was aware that I had no intention of collaborating with her, yet she boldly ventured into the palace of the noble concubine. Indeed, she chose wisely. Among all the concubines in the harem, only the noble concubine held greater power than I. However, the noble concubine certainly remembered the incident involving the snowball that Fu Yuan had carelessly thrown to its demise. As soon as Ning Pin departed, She personally arrived at my palace. She informed me that Ningpin was prepared to fight with all her might. I instructed the spies in Launching Palace to relay to her that the flower appreciation banquet in early spring would present the perfect opportunity for action. She could exploit Fu Yuan to render me irretrievably lost. As expected, Ningpin fell into the trap. That day, I deliberately avoided the crowd, standing alone on the bridge, quietly gazing at the willows swaying by the riverbank. Before long, Ningpin approached with Fu Yuan in tow. A casual glance revealed the increasing malice in his eyes. What place do I occupy now that the Empress has faltered? I redirected my gaze towards her. Your audacity is astonishing. How dare you lay hands on the Emperor? The arrow that has been loosed cannot be recalled. Having commenced this course, I must see it through to the end. If the Empress will not ally with me, then she is my adversary. With that, she scooped up Fu Yuan and unceremoniously cast him into the lake. With a resounding splash, the enormous sound of his plunge startled those on the shore, and without my command, they hesitated to approach. I feigned shock, waiting a moment before calling out. Surrounding eunuchs hurriedly fell into the water to rescue him, while I clutched the handkerchief in my grasp tightly. Even a tiger does not consume its young. Are you truly unafraid of your son's demise? Ningpin raised one corner of her mouth in a smirk. I have long taught him how to hold his breath. My son will not perish. He shall emerge as the ultimate victor. You have truly lost your mind. The river's waters in early spring are frigid. Falling in feels like being pricked by countless needles. When Fu Yuan was rescued, his body was stiff, and his lips were turning purple. The Emperor and Empress Dowager were both alarmed, and Ningpin threw herself in front of Fu Yuan, wailing. The Empress's heart is indeed ruthless. You conspire with Xian Chongzai, seeking my son's life. The Emperor has little time left. Anur is the only child in this palace, destined to become the crown prince. Do you intend to kill him to incite rebellion? Absurd. Even if you falsely accuse me, the Emperor is in the prime of his life. How dare you curse him? The Emperor's focus was already on rebellion, and upon hearing my words, his eyes narrowed dangerously. I have little time left. Ningpin trembled all over. She finally realized the magnitude of her blunder. Many officials and their families were present for the stability of the court. The Emperor's health issues had always been a closely guarded secret, yet she had brazenly spoken of it in public. Indeed, some began to advise, the Emperor's health is precarious. It is imperative to establish a crown prince swiftly. The Empress has been childless for years. The birth mother of the first prince is merely a palace maid, and the gender of the child in Xian Chongzai's womb remains unknown. Must we truly? Enough! The Empress Dowager's voice rang out, silencing all present. The Empress is already 3 months pregnant. The Emperor's ailments are merely minor issues. The matter of the crown prince shall be discussed later. The Emperor's sharp gaze swept towards me, and I returned his look with a gentle smile. In the blink of an eye, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. The Emperor fell gravely ill. Ningpin was ordered by the Empress Dowager to receive 20 slaps and was demoted to a concubine, cast into the cold palace. While the concubines surrounded the Emperor, offering him comfort, I visited Fu Yuan. His wolf-like eyes regarded me with wariness. I softened my tone. It was mother who was in the wrong. I never anticipated your mother to be so ruthless. It is said that a mother is kind and a son dutiful. I had no intention of usurping another's offspring, but I cannot bear to see you remain in that den of wolves. If you are willing, you may follow me from now on. He remained silent, gritting his teeth as he glared at my belly. The ambition of a white-eyed wolf was now laid bare. I pretended not to notice, continuing to speak. I am already content to be with child. The Emperor is wary of me and will not name my child as the heir. Now that the Emperor is angered with Ningpin, even if you are under my name. Alas. I gently stroked his head, and he finally lost control, crying in my embrace. After a bout of suppressed sobs, I heard his hoarse voice say, to exchange her life for my path to greatness, she would be pleased. Upon learning of his impending extinction, the Emperor erupted in fury upon discovering I was pregnant with a prince. Coincidentally, the Liu family publicly declared at this time that they would not contend for the position of crown prince, even presenting the rumored panacea said to cure all ailments. The Emperor did not trust the Liu family, nor did he trust me, but after witnessing the eunuch who tested the medicine sprout male organs, he had no choice but to believe. Of course, there is no such thing as an elixir. That eunuch was a twin I had specially sought. Xian Chongzai gave birth to a male infant in the summer, but due to complications during the pregnancy, the child was born frail. The imperial physician stated the child would not survive long, and Xian Chongzai wept daily, while the emperor harbored great hopes for this child. Upon hearing the news, he fell into a 3-day stupor, and when he awoke, his health was utterly shattered. The atmosphere in the court grew tense, with daily disputes over who should be named crown prince. Some argued that the eldest son should be established as the heir, while others claimed the eldest prince's mother had cursed the emperor, suggesting they should wait for the empress to give birth before making a decision. I had someone relay this information to Fu Yuan, and he could not restrain himself. Mother, the eldest prince visits the cold palace daily, feeding Ming the concubine a considerable amount of hallucination powder. She is scarcely lucid anymore. I cradled my soon-to-be-born belly, a cold smile gracing my lips. The next day, disregarding Huizhu's protests, I knelt before the emperor's chamber, pleading for him to establish the eldest prince as crown prince. Fu Yuan rushed over upon hearing the news, and upon seeing the cold sweat on my forehead, his eyes reddened as he trembled, uttering, "Mother, you need not go to such lengths for me." I wanted to smile at him, but suddenly, a warm rush surged forth. Huizhu gasped, "Your Highness, your water has broken." It was already too late to return to Fingy Palace for the delivery, and the surrounding maidens hurriedly lifted me to the nearest side hall. Huizhu kept murmuring in my ear, "Your Highness, the eldest prince is waiting right outside, you." I gave her an affirming glance and continued to bear down at the midwife's urging. I don't know how much time passed, but suddenly chaos erupted outside. "Someone quick. Someone is attempting to assassinate the empress." I propped myself up, raising my eyes to see Ning Shan, hair disheveled, bursting into the room. The eunuchs and maidens around were thrown into disarray, and Fu Yuan attempted to intervene, only to be repelled by the wooden hairpin she brandished. "You wretched woman! You cannot give birth! You cannot give birth!" She charged to my bedside, raising her right hand high, and in that moment, Fu Yuan seized a pair of scissors from the table and plunged them directly into Ning Shan's neck. "I cannot allow you to harm mother." Suddenly, a loud wail pierced the room, the cry of a newborn. The third prince had arrived safely. Ning Shan's body was dragged away, and Fu Yuan stared at the blood on his hands, his eyes rolling back as he fainted. When he awoke again, it was in Longshao Hall. The emperor had just sipped the calming tea and fallen asleep. "Lu Ruan, what have you done to me?" He clutched his head, his expression pained. I gazed at him in shock. Could it be that he too had been reborn? I saw him furrow his brow, layers of memories flashing through his mind. "Mother, my mother." I could not help but burst into laughter. "Have you remembered? The bruises on your body, the cold baths you endured to help her vie for favor, and the icy waters of the lake in spring, these are all for the mother you long for." "No, it is not like that. If it were not for your instigation, my mother would not treat me this way." I said no more, tossing the recently acquired edict to confer the title of Crown Prince before him. "You are now the Crown Prince. Do you still wish for me to gardening the concubine's tomb?" Watching him eagerly retrieve the edict from the ground, I drew forth the dagger I had long prepared and swiftly plunged it into the emperor's chest. Before he could react, I declared loudly, "The eldest prince has attempted to assassinate the emperor. Take him away to be dealt with by the House of Rights." Fu Yuan was taken aback, cursing me vehemently. But by then it was all too late. The emperor passed away, and to prevent chaos, the Empress Dowager decreed that Prince Jing return to the capital to oversee the situation. With the legitimate son being so young, calls for Prince Jing to ascend the throne grew ever louder in the court. When Prince Jing returned to the capital, he immediately expressed his support for the third prince. The Liu family, no longer in silence, rejoiced as my dear Nyener finally ascended the throne. At the grand ceremony of coronation, I held my Nyener, who had just celebrated his first month, sitting atop the elevated platform, exchanging a smile with the regent beside me. From this moment forth, my life felt utterly fulfilled. The story concludes here. Thank you for listening, and until we meet again in the next tale.